Voting began in the first phase in Myanmar's heavily restricted polls on Sunday. The ruling junta touts the exercise as a return to democracy 5 years after it ousted the last elected government, triggering civil war. Myanmar's junta leader Min Aung Hlaing claimed the country's elections as free and fair, despite being run by the military, which seized power in a coup 5 years ago.
Despite the ongoing civil war in the country and widespread violence undermining the process, Myanmar held its first general election since the 2021 military coup on Sunday. Now let us understand that why is Myanmar holding an election? Military ousted the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi. Aung San Suu Kyi ousted in February 2021 coup, just when she was preparing for its second term in office. Generals accused Suu Kyi and her National League for Democracy party of electoral fraud. Suu Kyi, along with her party leaders, was detained. Junta pledged to hold an election by August 2023. Pledged to restore a democratic system, but that was pushed back. Military lost control of swaths of the country. Lost battles with ethnic minority rebels and anti-junta militias. NLD was among dozens of parties dissolved. Voting will be held in phases. Voting going on in phases on December 28th in 102 townships. On January 11th in 100 townships, January 25 in 63 townships, covering a total of 265 townships out of a total of 330. Junta Chief Min Aung Hlaing has acknowledged the polls. Dates for counting and results have not been publicized. Previous elections used a plurality system. Earlier, candidates with the most votes won the seats. In line with an army-drafted 2008 constitution, 25% of upper and lower seats were reserved for serving military personnel. Those personnel were selected by the Armed Forces Chief. Fate of key political parties are in fray. Only 6 parties are competing on a national level, with 51 contesting with a single region or state. Many parties from last 2 elections have disbanded and anti-junta rebels have opted out. Only junta-approved parties remain, including military's proxy Union Solidarity and Development Party. USDP had won last election held by a junta in 2010. USDP is fielding 1,018 candidates, a fifth of the total registered. USDP, led by former generals, was routed by NLD in landslides in 2015 and 2020 elections. In 2010, armed forces held 25% of legislature, with USDP allies expected to win many seats. Military will have power to influence who becomes the president, government formation, and judicial and civil service appointments. World also reacted to the Myanmar polls. The UN, Western countries and human rights groups call the system a sham to sustain military rule. The ASEAN bloc, including Myanmar, has called for a fair and inclusive election. Junta Chief Min Aung Hlaing has made a major diplomatic push this year to win support for polls. Military dismissed international criticism, asserting election lacked coercion and had public support. Junta spokesperson Zaw Min Tan said that election is for people of Myanmar, not international community. The junta that has since ruled Myanmar said the vote is a chance for a fresh start politically and economically. Bureau Report, DD India.
And DD India's Akhilesh Suman joins us on the story from New Delhi. Akhilesh, the most popular party, National League for Democracy, is banned from running in this election, with the country's most popular politician, Aung San Suu Kyi, in detention. So how fair are these elections?
Yeah, that is the biggest point, that when you remove, when you ban, and when you don't allow the biggest political party of a country, it cannot be fair. You know, in the last election, NLD has got 83% of votes. So you can understand that what mammoth support Aung San Suu Kyi party has got in Myanmar. And after that, in 2021, she was in jail. And she has, in jail. She has been in jail for last 27 years, barring a few years when she was in power and she was free to move around the country. So I think this is one of the worst things that Myanmar junta is doing by not allowing the most popular political party of the country. That one must understand that military has a role and political parties have a role. And when you talk about democracy, you should understand the difference between military and political party. Political party is the civilian government who should rule the country, and military should work on the advice and policy framed by the political party. But in Myanmar, it is totally different. It is the army which is deciding what type of politics and what type of activities will go in Myanmar, and political parties are just putting in the backside. And that is why you have seen that so many, insurgencies, so many resistance movements, and one of the major communities, one of the communities of Myanmar, the country, every country is, really pissed off with is the Rohingya community. Rohingya is the part of Myanmar, but they are forced to live outside the country. So I think instead of addressing these things, Myanmar junta is just not allowing the political parties who are real political parties in the fray. So I think that it may be elections are declared, even the counting dates are not declared. So one of the military persons will become the president and the officials of the government. But it cannot be held very legitimate. But everyone wanted at least to go for the election and see that what happens.
Okay. The election has been condemned by the United Nations and Western governments, but has support from China. Why is that?
I know that you can understand that United Nations is a body that keeps, track of everything that is happening all around the world. And United Nations knows very well that Nobel Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi, the treatment is basically inhuman treatment she is facing for last 27 years, putting her in jail. In the military junta, that in a way that it is like a crime against an individual and also against democracy. So in that way, even it's quite justifies that this election is really a sham election. And Western countries also who are democratic countries and who somehow or other support democracies around the world, they also don't like the way junta is doing. So in that way, you can understand that what is the problem but China is a different thing. China doesn't have a democracy. It has a one-party rule in that way. So that is why that China either doesn't support Aung San Suu Kyi, or China uses Myanmar military junta for its own transactional business. China is transactional in that way, and that is why that China is okay with the military junta.
Okay, the voting has to be held in phases with certain townships barred from elections. So it will be seen how these elections are conducted in the days ahead. Thank you very much, Akhilesh Suman, for reporting on the story.